I just started taking some courses, and I was like, okay, this seems to be like something I can apply in my research, because um yeah, because like you need to like really have like first other publications in grad school to like uh, and like the co-author, I was working on some like co-author papers with like some of the other like postdocs in my lab, and I wanted to try something by myself, and I thought, okay, there's this machine learning tools kits like TensorFlow that are being available now. I thought I'll just try it out on some gravitational wave data that I had access to because I was in LIGO at the time, and that's how I got into machine learning. And then once I was in, it was just like there's so much to do. There's very few people with the background in like computational science and machine learning as well as physics. So there was like a lot of things that were not explored. So that was like a transition that happened. Yeah, I did not plan that out at all. But I would say like I was always interested in programming. And these days, like programming is as important as math for like any job, or even to like in academia for like any like like all my grad school like peers, all the other grad students, they spend like 90% of their time coding. Like all the professors too at the University of Illinois, they spend 90% of their time working on like computational physics, computational astrophysics. So yeah, I was always interested in programming.
Oh, cool. So that does give me an idea. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and I think this is also something that engineering physics curriculum lacked. Like they were really good at like teaching us statistics, linear algebra, um all these like everything else you need to do have a background in like for industry jobs, the quant finance, the machine learning, but they weren't like that. We didn't have such a strong background in programming based on the coursework. Like I would recommend everyone should take like some computer science department courses, especially like data structures and algorithms. That course is like a really useful course that I think they should add to the engineering physics curriculum. It's like super useful.
We should really take this up. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
We'll keep this point in mind.
Yeah, data structures and algorithms. That was like it like I think that course is like very very useful for any job, any research. Yeah. Okay, I see the other question. How is the physics knowledge helping in quant finance? Yeah, so quant finance, like I said, all the uh, things you do is basically very similar to what we do in physics. In physics, we're trying to like model like the universe. We're trying to like just like we collect a lot of data in astrophysics and other fields. We try to build models, find equations that fit the data and like try to forecast things. So it's very similar. So all quantum is like differential equations. Once you have background in differential equations, probability and statistics. So if you're like really good at statistical mechanics, a lot of people in hedge funds and investment banks I met are from a physics background. There are a lot of people who did like their PhD in string theory, who are like statistical mechanics, who actually ended up coming to these hedge funds. So I think physics is probably the most useful thing if you want to go into quant finance later on. Physics plus a lot of programming skills as well. So yeah. The other question is, yeah, I worked with the Huerta group.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm part of the
Like, am I
Huerta
audible,
group
right?
bench unit. I can hear you, but the quality is pretty choppy.
Yeah,
Um,
sorry for that. Okay, so now the next, how did you make a career after PhD switch to AI? Or was it not a career switch at all, meaning that doesn't there exist some standard skill set and knowledge that one can apply to these seemingly unrelated fields?
um, the
Hello?
question, I think, so you're asking how I made it switch from physics to AI, and what is the second part?
Yeah. And was that really a switch from physics to AI, or is there any standard skill set and knowledge that one requires in our field that we can excel? Like how much it is related to physics department
Mm-hmm.
uh, during your switch from physics to AI? How was it useful, and what you did other than the physics to switch
Yeah,
from
so
physics to AI?
yeah, so I started out doing a lot of like computational physics. So I was like doing simulations of like black holes and everything. So we were creating a lot of data. And to the switch to machine learning was that I was like already like taking some like online machine learning courses, and uh, so that I was started off by applying machine learning in physics, and then I got a bunch of papers out, and I did my PhD in machine learning applied to gravitational physics. And then I got this job. Like once you have a background in machine learning, like this is like the hottest sector right now. So like I got a bunch of like offers from like all these companies like Google and other places that was just machine learning and AI alone, not related to physics. So then I went into that area where I was just working on machine learning applied to everything. I was working on like machine learning applied to genetic engineering for like a few months at Google. I applied machine learning for speech recognition, speech processing. So like the transition was seamless. Um, and like I said, like to have a if you have a strong background in physics and programming, then machine learning is very easy. Like the calculus is like very like high school level like calculus that you can do to understand neural networks or anything. So anyone with a physics background can easily get into machine learning as long as you have
That's
some programming skills as well.
that
Yeah.
was very great answer. So Gaurav, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yeah. So thanks. Hi. Thank you for taking out time for this. And yeah, my question is, so I'm a grad student right now at
Mhm.
IIT Bombay, and I'm doing my PhD in
Hello?
astrophysics. Um, you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I was just curious when you joined your grad school. Did you have an idea that you want to go away from academia after your grad school? And if yes, then did you like did you sway your PhD thesis in that direction so that it is more favorable or more attractive to companies that will probably hire you after your grad school, or and if is that a good idea to do that? Is my question.
So I so I did not know whether I wanted to go to industry. I actually thought I was going to do a postdoc. So throughout my PhD until the very end, I assumed that I was going to do a postdoc afterwards and go like along academia. It's only like in certain fields like machine learning and AI and data science applied to physics that you even have the option to like go to industry. If you're doing a pure like theoretical physics PhD, it's not like most people would do a postdoc before like even considering leaving.
Yeah.
So I did not know that I was going to go to industry, but I was actually like doing internships. This was very uncommon, but I was doing internships every summer from my first year. Like usually professors tell you like to just stay there and work on your like thesis or like your
Yeah.
research.
Yeah.
But I just happened to have a really good advisor who encouraged me to like also like do other things.
Hmm.
Uh, so I was doing an internship the first year. I was working at Los Alamos. The second year I worked at Wolfram. Wolfram is a company that makes
Yeah.
Mathematica and
Yeah.
Wolfram Alpha. And then the third year I did an internship at Google. And throughout my third year also I was actually working at like Wolfram as part time. So
Hmm.
this is also another thing that not many people know about. If you do a PhD in the US, with your student visa, you can actually work 20 hours a week throughout the year. Like there's no limit or anything. Most
Oh,
people
okay.
don't do that, but I was like an intern the whole time, working 20 hours a week at Wolfram. So I already had an offer from Los Alamos, Wolfram, and Google
Hmm.
uh, to come back. And I thought I was going to do a postdoc, but like to be fair, like the opportunities for academia in the US is very less. Like the job market is very saturated. Um,
Yeah.
to get a tenure track position is almost impossible. At least I would have to work as a postdoc for another 3 4 years before I can even get an assistant professor position. And then I have to
Yeah.
work as an assistant professor for like 5 years before I can get a tenure as an associate professor. Until then, your job is temporary. So
Yeah.
once I got this Google offer, which was like a research scientist, which is like higher than postdoc, and it even pays like more than a full professor's salary. So there was like once I got the offer, that's when I decided to not do a postdoc because like as a postdoc you would make like one like less than 20% what you would get as a research scientist at any of these companies. And also the work was more interesting. It's like a permanent position, whereas a postdoc, you have to always be looking for the next position, you know.
Hmm.
Like
Yes.
every 2 years you have to switch, and then you have to apply for tenure track position. So once I got the offer, there was no question. I can still always come back to academia because at Google, as a research scientist position, I'm still doing research and I was still publishing papers and patents and everything. So there was it's basically like a postdoc at Google. You can think of it even better than a postdoc, like a research scientist.
Yeah, that
Uh,
makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah. So a quick follow-up question. You have something more to add in case? Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think the only thing I want to add is like you have to be very like doing these internships. People will tell you not to do it. Like almost all my like grad school friends, their
Hmm.
professors told them not to do it, and nobody else did internships. I think I was like the only person who did internships, even in that department at the time.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would definitely like encourage people to do internships because it actually even helped with my research. Like the stuff I was learning at each
Hmm.
of these companies was like very useful when I wanted to apply it to like my research. And you also
Oh.
build your network and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. A quick follow-up question, a very short one. So your internships were all related to the topic that you had taken up in your PhD, or were they like remotely related or something like that? What kind of flexibility was there for you to choose? Yeah.
So my first internship was related. I was working on computational like simulations of like black holes. So my first
Hmm.
internship at Los Alamos National Lab, which is a place that makes like the atom bomb and everything. So there, my first internship was on like simulations of neutron stars.
Yeah.
So it's very similar. But then by the time I did finished my second year, I was already into machine learning, and I wanted to actually learn machine like get more experience in machine learning. So that internship was not related to physics.
Hmm.
At Wolfram, I worked on Wolfram Alpha, trying to use machine learning to make Wolfram Alpha better at understanding English.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
and that I learned so much about machine learning there that I came back from the internship and I was able to like apply a bunch of new techniques to like gravitational wave machine learning for gravitational wave processing.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. Okay.
and so the thing is usually most so this is another thing like usually most students did not have the opportunity to do this because their advisors had like these their advisors basically had these grants and the students could only work on these grants. So usually picking an advisor that has a lot of funding and they don't force you to work on a specific project is very
Hmm.
useful here. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm glad that worked out for you. And thank you so much for answering that question.
yeah. I'm happy there. Any other questions? I think somebody else is raising their hand. Yeah, you can ask the question. I
Yes,
think.
go ahead. Hello, Nirvan.
Yeah, hi. Daniel, I have one more question. As you're telling, you did internships and you had, I presume, you had pretty much exposure in the fields required to shift. My question is regarding this exposure, perspective. Suppose if a student is doing PhD in India, suppose like us who are doing PhD in IIT itself, for them,
Mhm.
for India, in India, actually the flexibility for shifting is, I think, a bit less. So, in that case,
Okay.
do you have any suggestions for students who are doing PhD in India?
Mhm. So I'm not very sure about like um, how it is in India. Like here in the summer, you actually have the freedom to like do other things in the summer if your advisor agrees. I don't know if your advisor will let you do things in the summer. I'm not very sure how the Indian PhD system works, but I know that we have I have met people who came from India in like at least in Wolfram and Google who had like physics background and then did some like open source like machine learning, like some like GitHub. They had some GitHub repositories and then they got into machine learning. They applied to like internships in Google. So we had some candidates I interviewed who were in India at the time. So like at least for internships at Google and Wolfram, we take people from all over the world. You don't have to be a US citizen, or you don't have to be in the US at the time. we'll sponsor like a visa.
Okay, okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Um, yeah.
Any more doubts from anyone? Okay, Daniel. So you told that you done almost every year internship. So what are the fundas that you got? Google interns and all that. So what are the skills that you require for getting interns, good interns?
Hmm. Yeah. So I did a lot of interviews for like once I was at Google, I was like interviewing candidates to like get like a lot of interns were applying, and I was interviewing these candidates. So what we mostly look for is like first of all we look for like first order papers. I think it's like so many people apply, and like the main the number one most important thing to like get a job, like to graduate your PhD, to get internships, everything is usually like the first criteria is first order publications, which are in like reputed journals. So I would like encourage everyone to like start focusing on that from the beginning. Like from your first year onwards, always be looking at like how I can publish some first other paper instead of like mostly professors and other postdocs and others will be like, oh, like go help this collaboration, like go help this student, go help this postdoc and become a co-author, like the third or fourth or something author. That is only useful to get into grad school, like to get into a
Okay.
PhD program. But once you're already in a PhD program, everything like the currency that you're evaluated by is like first other papers. So I would, and it's not even that as hard as people think. Uh, like a lot of people spend a lot of time focusing on the co-author papers, but you can actually just start working on some new ideas, especially if you're in like focusing on some hot field like machine learning and physics, like a combination of physics, machine learning, or something. There is a lot, even in any like computational sciences, there's a lot of papers you can do quickly. Uh, so that is the number one criteria. The second criteria is like a strong programming background. So we look if the person has like a GitHub repository or like at least shown that they can like have like good Python programming skills. So data structures like Python, like so that is very important, I think. And then other than that, we basically look at the university. And like since you're all at IIT Bombay, everybody knows that IIT Bombay is like pretty good. So yeah, and the PhD university doesn't matter as much. The advisor is much more important than going to like a very reputed PhD program.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
very great. Okay, sir.
Yeah.
So
Also,
are you,
internships start by so first you can apply to some company that is not like Google or something. You can start by applying to like Bullfront, for example. They're more likely to take you. And once you have one internship, other companies are like much more likely to take you again. So you can like start with a low, like a less known company, then like go to like a top tier company. Even same with grad schools. Most people only apply to like MIT, Harvard, Caltech, or something. But in grad school, more than the name of the university, if you work at for a reputed professor, and since the job market is so saturated, you'll find like these really famous professors in like some university that's like ranked 100 or something. And doing a PhD with them is as useful as doing a PhD with like somebody at MIT probably. Yeah. Anyway.
yeah. Okay, sir. So Arvind wants to ask question. Please,
Okay.
Arvind, go ahead.
Oh, hey George. So, is it is completing a PhD in 3 years like actually a thing? I mean, isn't that like super quick?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that in my case, at least in my department, I don't think anyone else has done in 3 years. But I think 4 years is much more like reasonable. Uh, People can you can do it in 4 years if you do the right things. Like so I'm focusing on PhDs in the US. Like if you go to Europe, you can easily do it in 3 years. Everybody does it. But in the US, I think it averages like 5 to 6 years. But if you do the right things from the beginning, you can do it in 4 years. I know other people have done it in 4 years. And I would recommend, like at least in the US, to do it in 4 years. You actually have to like right from the beginning, first semester onwards, try to get research assistant positions. I spend like if you spend any time doing teaching assistant positions, that will delay your PhD by a lot. So you have to like find professors with funds to give you like a RA position right from the beginning. If you can get fellowship, that's even better. Uh, So fellowships or research assistant positions, you can get like a huge speed up. You can actually do more research, publish papers from the beginning. And also, I think by choosing the right advisor is like super important. People like I don't think people pay enough attention when they decide their advisor. It should be like a long process. Like you should think of it as like I don't know, finding somebody to marry or something because this completely changes your whole life, right? So you have to like at least I would recommend working with a few advisors first for like a month or something, just like small projects, go to their group meetings and stuff, and see whether this advisor wants to make you. It's like whether his attitude is whether he wants you to like work for him as cheap labor for like 6 years, whether other grad students in his lab are doing that. Or if, in my case, my advisor was like the dean of the, or like the vice president of the University of Illinois. He was like the director of the National Center for Supercomputing. So he was not like doing active research, but he had this huge group. He had a lot of funds. He had all these postdocs working for him. And there was a lot of things happening in that group that I could, anytime I had a question, I could ask any postdoc and they'd help me with it. And there was like this other advisor who was married to this advisor in the same group. So I was getting a lot of support from all these people, and that actually accelerated my PhD a lot. Especially when publishing papers, I could like ask questions to everybody. There's an expert in every field. So picking the right research group and doing trying to avoid doing any teaching assistant positions as much as possible, you can actually do a PhD pretty fast. Also, you need to have job offers. Like if you can show that you have a job offer, then your advisor is more likely to let you graduate. So doing these internships would help for that. And the most important thing is to get these first order papers out. If, for example, I had like 3, 4 first order papers by the end of my 3 years, and that was like more than what other students who had done like 5 year PhDs had when they graduated. So I just made the case that okay, I have more papers than people who graduated, and I have this job offer, so you should let me graduate. And my advisor was like didn't care, right? He was like he just wanted what's best for me. So you have to find advisors like that. Um, yeah,
I
and
really believe that you found the right fit for you
yeah, I think
in the
that
form of your
I,
advisor.
finding the right advisor is very hard. I think, um, and you don't even have to find the right advisor like quickly. I found my advisor after like 6 months of joining. I tried to like work with a few people, and then like I found this like the right fit. Yeah.
Maybe as a prenup to this question, like, how did you get selected for a PhD program immediately after your BTech program?
Mhm. So
Like,
yeah,
was that bridge really hard to cross? Because finishing graduate school is still a hard thing, right?
uh, what is the second part? Like what bridge? Like the what do you mean the bridge?
As in, master students traditionally go straight to PhD programs, but then you climb the bridge as a bachelor student.
Oh, I think in the US, almost everybody in the US has like a master's plus PhD combined. So if you do a PhD program after you complete all the courses in 2 years, they'll give you a free master's degree. So nobody really goes and does a master's in physics in the US. Like if you're gonna do a master's, you can do it in like computer science or something, but then you'll have to pay for it. So I would recommend just apply to a PhD program directly. And almost all of my classmates came directly after their bachelor's. In the US, it's pretty common. In the Europe, I think you have to do a master's before you apply for a PhD. So that was not that rare. And the main things that they look for when taking you into the PhD program, like for the selection processes, they check whether you have any publications. I think that's number one. I had this one co-authored paper. In this case, co-authored papers are enough as an undergrad. So I had this one co-authored paper with this internship, this professor I worked with in my third year summer. So that helped a lot. And then the most important thing is like very strong letters of recommendation. So if you have like very strong, like 3 letters of recommendation and like at least one co-authored publication, you can easily go directly to a PhD after bachelor's in the US, I think. Yeah. Um, and I would recommend like at least doing 2 internships so that you have like your thesis advisor and then these two like undergrad internship advisors to like write you this letter. You shouldn't typically ask like your just because you took a course, you shouldn't ask them. You should probably ask somebody that you worked with. Like in our admissions committee, they always look for strong letters from professors that did like some research with you. Yeah, and it's
Thank you.
very common.
Thank you for
It's
your
very
suggestion.
common that everybody who does a PhD in the US comes after that too. And actually, I would actually recommend, even if you just want a master's, you should just directly apply for a PhD if you can get in, and then leave after 2 years, and that way you get like a completely paid master's, like a free master's degree. You don't have to pay anything. They'll pay you like $2,000 a month stipend, which is actually even more money than they'll give you like $2,000 a month to just do your master's or PhD, and your living expenses will only be like $1,000. You're actually saving like, I don't know, like 9 lakh rupees every year by just like going to your PhD program. Like after all your expenses, that's like as much as you'd save if you did a job in India, right? So it's actually not that bad of an idea to at least do a master's, but apply for a PhD program.
That
Uh,
looks like a very promising route to take.
yeah, I would at least recommend you to try. Like, there's nothing to lose really, and yeah, and you don't have to apply to the top tier universities. Just find like something in the top 100 and some reputed professor, and that's not that hard to get in. Like I got rejected by like MIT, Caltech, Berkeley, Stanford, Princeton, Harvard. But yeah, that's actually probably a good thing because if I'd gone there, it would take like 5, 6 years. There's like way more competition. It's harder to stand out, harder to get fellowships. It's probably like bad to go to the top places, like the top 10. There's
Okay.
actually this talk called EICD, Elite Institution Cognitive Disorder, that you should watch. It's actually a famous talk that says that you'll actually be less successful if you go to the top 10 universities because like it will be very hard to stand out. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, as a follow-up to that, was that the case in IIT Bombay, one of the best universities, best institutes in India?
Actually, I don't think that works for undergrad. Actually, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, for undergrad, like going to IIT Bombay is always like actually in some cases I have known like people with like a 10 GPA at like an NIT or something are like more likely to get into some grad school than like somebody with like an 8 GPA or something at IIT Bombay. So maybe it actually works for undergrad too. Like even though like getting an 8 GPA at IIT Bombay might be harder than to like get like a 10 at like some like I don't know like some other university in India. Sometimes like people just look at your GPA only for like some grad school admissions. So it has like pros and cons. But for undergrad, the university really matters. People like judge you based on the university. For PhD, nobody cares about the university. Nobody cares about your grades. Nobody cares. Like I have like a very bad grade in like grad school because I think I have like a 3.5 or something out of 4. And most of my classmates have like 4 out of 4. But like in PhD, like nobody cares about your grades. Like I don't think anyone has ever asked me for any grade about my transcripts for grad school. So yeah, and that's like probably useful advice. Like if you get into grad school, focus on first other papers, not on like courses and assignments and all that. But undergrad, I think grades matter to get you into grad school. Yeah. Um, yeah, any other questions? Hello? Uh, I can't hear anything.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah.
You also got perfect score in green physics. What was your strategy, and how you prepared for that?
Oh, the GRE physics.
Scoring full.
So the okay. So the GRE physics is not as hard as people think. Like I think at least out of like 5, 6 people in my engineering physics batch in 2000, like the 2015 graduation batch, I think of the 5, 6 people who took the physics GRE, at least like 4 people got a perfect score. So like if you can do IIT, JEE physics, I think the physics GRE is easier than that. The preparation strategy, I think I sent around the website. Uh, it's very similar to like IIT, JEE, like physics. This website I just posted actually has a lot of useful information. But the main strategy is you can get all the previous year's papers, like the past, like I don't know, you can get some 10 years worth of papers and just like practice all that for like 2 weeks. Just do all the questions, time it like 3 hour time, try to do it as fast as possible. And it's mostly like very basic physics questions, even like undergrad, like IIT JEE level questions. So you can actually do it if you just practice solving these questions very fast. Just like brush up on all the JEE stuff. Physics GRE, um, I think there was even like one person who finished the whole thing in 2 hours in the 3 hour exam and left, who got a perfect score too. He was also in my class at the time.
Yeah, so after qualifying Gray, uh, for which grad school we should look? Like what are suitable for us and job opportunities there?
So I would recommend going to the US grad school because first of all, it's fully paid. You don't have to do a master's in Europe. I think you have to pay for the master's in Europe before you can do a PhD. The US, you can go straight to PhD. It'll be fully paid, and this is the only way you can really come to the US because you can always go to Europe later. It's easy to get a visa to go work at Europe after you. From the US to going to Europe is easy, but coming to US is very hard. The H1B visa is a lottery. Very hard to get a visa to come to US at any point. But if you do a PhD in the US, you can actually continue working here on this thing called OPT. So I would definitely recommend coming to the US because then you'll have more opportunities. You'll have opportunities in Europe, you'll have opportunities in the US after you graduate. And the US jobs pay much more. Like, uh, like I don't think any other place would pay even half as much as Silicon Valley or Wall Street in the world. So I would definitely try to like go to the US to maximize like job opportunities in the future. And in terms of which grad school to apply to, like I think I said, like I wouldn't apply to the top 10. I mean, you can apply, but like um, unless you have a very perfect like GPA and like you're probably the first 2 3 people in the IIT Bombay engineering physics or something, it's very hard to get in the top 10 places. And there's no real point. Actually, the finding the right advisor at one of the top 100 universities in the US or something, or like the top 50 would be better. And there's a lot of really like highly reputed like professors with a lot of research that are in like not the top 10, like the University of Illinois or like the University of Notre Dame. Like a bunch of these universities have really like famous professors, and finding the right advisor is way more important when you apply to PhD. So I would recommend like emailing the professors, talking to them about research opportunities. Like I had talked to a professor at University of Illinois and Notre Dame before like applying there. So I think finding the right advisor is first priority.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Uh,
answers. So I have a few more questions from students.
yeah.
When did you start learning AI ML and what is the significance of AI ML on a broader scale?
Yeah. So I started doing machine learning in my second year of grad school. And it's very easy to learn machine learning if you have a physics background. Like if you understand linear algebra and like simple calculus, like just like the chain rule or calculus or something is all you need to understand to do like neural networks. So you can actually pick up machine learning very easily. There's so many resources out there. Like if you just go to Coursera, like the deeplearning.ai website has like a really good overview of machine learning. And I would focus on deep learning than just like old school machine learning courses that teach you like SVMs and gradient boosted trees and everything. There's a lot of courses on neural networks online that are better than any course you can actually take at a university. Like I don't think I've ever taken any real course at like a physical course. I don't think I've ever taken any machine learning courses. Everything you can learn online. There's so many code examples. Um, so I would focus first on having a strong programming background. Like take some CS courses like data structures and algorithms, and just like then you can easily pick up machine learning. It'll only take like a few weeks. So and nowadays everybody has a machine learning background, so to stand out, you have to actually do some applications. So do like an internship or something where you can apply machine learning in physics. There's so many possibilities. I'm sure like you take any field in physics, there's like probably some way you can apply machine learning neural nets to like do some data analysis, do something better. Um, Yeah.
Okay, that
What
answers
is
the
it?
question. The next question is, what is the scope of the machine and deep learning in physics, especially in condensed matter physics?
So I'm not very familiar how exactly they're applying it in condensed matter physics, but I have seen papers in like condensed matter physics and particle physics. They have People have applied machine learning in every area now. Like most PhD students right now are somehow trying to do some machine learning applications because it's very like it's you can do it fast because there's a lot of like low hanging fruit right now because not many people have that background in physics and machine learning. So there, I'm not sure exactly in condensed matter physics how it's done, but I'm sure you can Google it. There's like plenty of applications there, plenty of papers. Um, the relevance of machine learning in physics is actually uh, there's if you look there's like physics inspired machine learning. Nvidia just released like a physics inspired neural network toolkit for researchers. I think it's called, if you just Google Nvidia's physics inspired neural nets, you can actually find the framework. So there's like a lot of like cool things you can do in physics and machine learning. And it's actually, so one of the biggest teams at Google X is this team called Blue Shift that is actually a bunch of like physics PhDs, physics postdocs, and it's led by Leonard Susskind, like the Stanford professor, like one of the founders of string theory. Leonard Susskind works half the time at Google X, and leads this like physics team that is trying to understand machine learning from like a physics standpoint, like a theoretical background of machine, like why machine learning works, why neural nets work, things like that. So, and even at Wolfram and Google and now at JP Morgan, almost everybody has like a physics background. Like at least 50% of the people, I would say, has some kind of physics undergrad or physics like background, especially at hedge funds. So I'm sure you can. There's a lot of intersection between physics and machine learning. Um,
Okay,
I see
so you
one.
are,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, go
sorry,
ahead.
what was, okay. So you are currently Vice President for Applied AI at JP Morgan Chase. What is your work here and how you switched from Google to JP Morgan?
Okay. So so once you have a background in like machine learning and physics, like you can actually easily like this is the background that people in quant finance are looking for now. They're applying hiring like deep learning, machine learning researchers. And if you have a physics background, that really helps you like understand like statistics, probability, differential equations, modeling. So the background, if you have a physics programming background and some machine learning background, you can actually work in any industry now. Like almost every industry is hiring machine learning people, and if and physics people as well as like I think physics is a very like highly sought degree, at least at the graduate level. Like I think almost every industry I've seen like really like values physicists a lot. So and my work at JP Morgan is very similar to what I was doing at Google X too. It was to take all these data sets from different domains, try to build like machine learning models to like forecast like something like denoise the signals, um, like forecast stock prices. I actually got interested in trading early this year as a hobby while I was at Google. Like after coronavirus, like the stock markets crashed and there was like a lot of opportunities. I was just trying to apply machine learning on like the time series data from stock prices, which is very similar to like gravitational waves. If you just look at the data, it's like very noisy time series signals. So I just tried applying some machine learning techniques and it worked out really well. I was able to make like over 100% like profit in a few months with like real money. So then I had some background and that's how I ended up going to JP Morgan to like actually like pursue that area I was more interested in than what I was actually doing at Google X at the time. Yeah.
Perfectly
Right.
answered, Daniel. So, Gaurav, please, you can unmute and ask your doubt.
Yeah. So there was a. So you are mentioning that you saw in your experience that a lot of companies were. You you have seen a lot of physics graduate students end up at companies that you have seen. Like in your opinion, what are the reasons behind companies favoring physics graduate students? Any particular thing?
I think physics really prepares you to like solve problems. It gives you like all the necessary skills, like applied math skills, solving real world problems. So like I think people just think of physics as like problem solvers. Like and you have a strong math background, you have a strong statistics probability like background, and you should actually like all these people are physicists who also have a strong programming background. So like if you're a physicist and have a programming background, that's basically like all the skills you really need. Math,
Okay.
like applied math, statistics, linear algebra, differential equations. These are like the most sought after courses. I wish I paid more attention to these courses when I was an undergrad, because only later on I had to like relearn a lot of these things because I didn't pay attention to the classes. I was like playing Counter Strike or something. But like I regret that
Okay.
because yeah, I regret that because like when you're an undergrad, it feels like people are just giving you random pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. Nothing
Yeah.
makes.
Yeah.
But once you start working on your PhD or in like an industry, everything just fits together, like linear algebra, probability statistics, like programming, everything like comes in, and then you're like you start like understanding everything is just like connected, and if you miss something, that's actually like a big hole. So I would probably pay attention to like all these like things that they teach you, like linear algebra, complex analysis. It actually becomes useful later on.
Yeah, I can completely relate. So in my first year, I am forced to redo a lot of courses that I did in my first year undergrad. So yeah, I can understand what you said. Yeah,
I know, and
thank you.
undergrad is like the perfect time because you have all this free time, and like uh,
Yeah.
I could have like actually like learned much more on this course. Like, and I would also recommend like learning by yourself.
Hmm.
Like most people I know like are so focused on like learning in classes, like they can't like learn without a professor like actually lecturing
Hmm.
you, giving you lecture notes. I would recommend just learning from textbooks because like in PhD and like afterwards, like the ability to learn anything by yourself is like the only skill you really need, and that is what actually like lets you learn machine learning by yourself without taking any courses. So just like instead of looking at lecture notes, just like learn from textbooks directly or from online courses or blogs or YouTube or whatever. Just like that self-taught thing is probably the most useful skill.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
I see a couple of questions. Do online certification courses make an impact? I mean, I wouldn't spend too much time like getting the actual certificate. Just saying that you've done a course and like showing something on GitHub and talking about these things in an interview actually is enough. Like nobody cares if you actually have the certificate on Coursera that you paid money for. Like even if you just do a course, you can mention it that you have like done this course. I wouldn't pay money for it. I don't think any company like actually asks you for a certificate. Um, the second question is why do companies like Google look for a candidate? Okay, so second question is similar. So what I looked for when I was interviewing at Google, like when I was interviewing candidates who are applying to Google, was like first are the publications, some like GitHub like repositories, like strong Python programming skills. Um, yeah, I think the programming skills is like very relevant. Like you can if you can show something, some projects on GitHub, people will take you more seriously. Or at least if you have like some publication that uses a lot of computation programming. Online courses, I think doing online courses, nobody like asks for a certificate. Like I said, if you do it, it's for your own like understanding yourself. I don't think companies value online courses as much as you think. But if you can do the online course and you say that you did it and you applied it somewhere, then companies will take you more seriously. Um, and you're right, like nowadays, like there are so many like graduate students and so many undergrad people with an undergrad degree and master's degree. Having a PhD will help you stand out, but if you don't, it's also a risk. The reward is high if you can do it quickly and find a good advisor and do all these internships and everything. But I have seen like if you find the wrong advisor and like work on some dead end problem, your PhD can take like 6 years and you won't get hired in any industry job if it's not in like some area like machine learning programming. So you have to like really know what PhD you're doing to see if it's worth it. But having a PhD definitely gives you an advantage. But if you just spend 6 years at a company, you'll be higher up than if you do a PhD in 6 years and then join a company.
Okay, thank you. And just to add, you said they were looking for publication. So do these company come for specific areas in AI or ML, like maybe language processing or or vision? I'm not. I do not not know much about this, but I'm asking whether they hire people for specific post, or do they just look for a general candidate who knows, the basics. You were saying publications were also required, so
Yeah, I
how do
think
they?
Yeah, I think you if you have a strong background in programming and like a physics background, and then you can actually just easily switch between different areas of machine learning. Like I have done, I want the Wolfram internship was on natural language processing. Then I switched to like my other like thesis was on time series signal processing. The work at Google, I was working on like genetic engineering, like all kinds of different areas. So like it's not that machine learning, deep learning is kind of like a hammer. You can like use it for anything. So companies don't really care too much as long as you have like some strong machine learning background in some areas.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I mean, also I would suggest like you can just pick one area, like uh, just like deep learning for like some like I don't know, like language processing, for example. And there is plenty of jobs in language processing itself that it doesn't matter if you like you don't have to apply for other areas. Like in any specific area of machine learning, you can easily find jobs these days. So you don't have to be a generalist. For example, like one of my colleagues at JP Morgan did his PhD in particle physics, and then he did like this online courses on natural language processing, deep learning, and then he just like applied to JP Morgan. He's been working on natural language processing only for the last 4 years, and he did no machine learning or programming during his PhD either. So yeah, you can, as long as you show that you have this background, that's enough in one area.
Okay, thanks.
Uh,
Simran, I think you want to ask. You can
Yeah,
unmute.
yeah. Hi, Daniel. So I am a BSc student from Ferguson College, and I'm doing a project at IIT Bombay
mhm.
under Professor Varun Bhalera. So I am in my third year, and I want to pursue computational physics. So I have been planning to apply to US grad schools, but I feel that I need more experience. So my program is a 3-year program, right? So is it a good idea to wait another year and gain more experience and apply next year? I mean, is that a good idea too?
That's actually an interesting situation because at least at the University of Illinois, I think you need to have a 4-year degree to
Okay.
directly apply for a PhD. I
Okay.
think University of Illinois had that rule. Maybe other universities don't have it. You have to like check in the university webpage.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm sure. I think 4 year, because in the US a bachelor degree is 4 years. So I think a 3-year degree they might not directly let you do a PhD. Uh, so you might have to do a master's first.
Okay. Yeah.
In that situation, maybe doing a master's in Europe, which is only 1 year, and then applying to a PhD might also be an option. Uh,
Okay.
you can do like an integrated MSc, BSc, if that you can switch to that. Yeah, but yeah, I think 3 year might be hard. Or if you can show some research publications, they might make an exception. If you
Right.
do good research, and all these rules are very flexible. Like if a professor wants to take you, they can take you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
So anyone else want to ask any doubts? Please unmute and you can ask. Okay, Daniel, I think um, no one is asking any doubts, so we can end the session.
Okay. Yeah. Like well, it's been a very
Uh,
pleasure talking to all of you, and I'm honored that you invited me for this. And also, if you have any other questions, you can always like email me or something, and I'll hopefully I'll probably reply. Um, I just put my email in the chat. Um, yeah, if you don't have any other questions, um, I think I had actually written down some points that I wanted to share. Um, Let me see. I have written down some points for, let's see, what is important. Uh, let's see. Also, yeah, I think emailing on multiple purposes right now for summer internships would actually be very useful. Like, especially with coronavirus, I'm sure people will let you do virtual internships, so they don't have to pay for airfare or like housing or anything. So if you can just like email professors in like US, not just like MIT, Caltech and stuff, just like any top 100 universities, and working with them virtually might be actually very useful and won't cost anything. Uh, and I had to send like 100 emails to get like one internship in my third year. And that ended up getting me to grad school and so on. So, um, yeah, I think that was the only, I think I covered everything else.